Okay, today we're talking about the coordinate plane. The coordinate plane is basically a vertical number line and a horizontal number line that intersect each other. Okay, we have the vertical number line is called the y-axis. The horizontal number line is called the x-axis. Well, it's what you probably should have been doing instead of yapping like you've been doing for the last 10 minutes. Yes, you have to copy it. Now, you will notice that on the number line here, the darker green is the positive, the lighter green is the negative. Okay, just like a number line, the negative integers are to the left, positive of 0, positive integers are to the right of 0. You will notice that on the vertical number line here, the darker blue that's right here is the positive, and the lighter blue right there is the negative. Okay? Now, in the coordinate plane, we are going to have points. Okay? For example, if I have that point right there, that point we'll call point A. Okay? Point A has an ordered pair of numbers with the point. Okay? We call this the x coordinate and the y coordinate. Okay, the fact that it says it's an ordered pair means that the x-coordinate comes first and the y-coordinate comes second. How we can tell what these two coordinates are is if we look down from the A and go down until we cross the x-axis. We cross the x-axis at 7. So the x-coordinate of the point is 7. If we look across to the left, at where we cross the y-axis, we cross the y-axis at 8. So the y-coordinate is 8. So the ordered pair of numbers for that point is 7 and 8. It does matter what order it is in. Okay, it does matter what order the coordinates are in. If I had the coordinates 8, 7, okay, if I had the coordinates 8 and then 7, 8, 7 would be point B. Okay, so you can tell there's a difference between the 8, 7 and the 7, 8. They are not the same thing. Okay, the x-coordinate is always listed first, the y-coordinate is always listed second. Okay, you will notice that our graph is divided into 4 sections. Okay, we call these sections quadrants. That's quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Okay, those are your different quadrants. You will notice that they go backwards or they go counterclockwise. Okay, where the two lines intersect is called our origin. At the origins of that point, the coordinates are 0, 0. Okay, so let's look at another point. Let's say I have this point right here. That point right there, we will call that point C. Okay, point C would have the coordinates of -6 and 2. This is the X, and that's the Y. Okay. So, if we had a point down here, let's say we had this point right here. We'll call that point D. If we had point D, we would look at where it falls on the x-axis. So it crosses at 3, and where it falls on the y-axis, which is -8. So the coordinates of that point would be 3, -8. Once again, this is the X, and that's the Y. Okay, if we had a point in the quadrant 3, and let's say it was right here, we'll call that point E, and that would be -3, -3. Okay, let's talk about the quadrants for a second. In quadrant number 1, we have 2 coordinates listed, and both of the coordinates are negative or both the coordinates are positive? Positive. So, in quadrant 1, your coordinates are going to be a positive and a positive. X is positive, and so is Y. In quadrant 2, okay, in quadrant 2, what is the X coordinate? Negative or positive? Negative. So in quadrant 2, the X is negative and the Y would be positive. In quadrant 3, the X coordinate is what? Negative. And the Y coordinate is what? Negative. Okay, and then in quadrant 4, we have positive and a negative coordinates. Now, you will notice that this is the opposite of quadrant 1. So quadrant 3 and quadrant 1 have the opposite as far as their coordinates being negative and positive go. And so does quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. They have the opposite coordinates. Quadrant 2, X is negative. In quadrant 4, X is positive. Okay? Now, let's talk about points that fall on the axis. Right there at -8, there's a point. We'll call that point F. What are the coordinates at point F? Where does it cross the x-axis? It crosses at 8. Here's 8. -8. It crosses at -8. So -8, and where does it cross the y-axis? 0. So -8 and 0. Okay? If you have one that's -8 and 0, then how you explain where it's located is on the x-axis. It's not in a quadrant. If it falls on a line, it is not in a quadrant. If the point falls on the x-axis or y-axis, it does not have a quadrant. So, then what would the coordinates of this point we call G, what would the coordinates of G be? Zero, -6. And so it would be the y-axis. Instead of quadrant 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it's just the y-axis. Yes, Kennedy. You're going to have to do quite a few things. I'm going to explain it here in a second. But yes, you will have to be able to plot it and tell what quadrant it's in. You will need to be able to find the coordinates and then tell what also quadrant it falls in. Huh? All right, now, hang on a second. All right, let's look at this next one. Okay, what I want to do here is I want to find the coordinates of each of the points. So I want you to look at that coordinate plane, and I want you to write down the letters A, B, C, and D. And I want you to find the coordinates of those points. Okay, I'll give you a minute to do that. Look at the screen, find A, B, C, and D. D is actually, C is there. Okay, so write down the coordinates. Remember, it's an ordered pair, a pair of numbers. So find the coordinates of A, find the coordinates of B, and write it down on your notes. All right. Tristan, what did you get for A? Yes. The coordinates of A is 0 and 7. Okay. B. Lily? Yes. 0 and -1. How about C? Who has C, Cameron? Negative, what now? No. Jacob, help him out. Yeah, you had them reversed. 2 and -10. Okay. Now, Tayshawn, what would D be? -9 and 0. Okay, now, this, if you were describing where it is, it would be the y-axis. This would be the y-axis. Okay, 2 and -10, C, would be in the quadrant 4. -9 and 0 would be the x-axis. That's how you would describe the location of those points. Well, good for him. All right, now, if we look at 5 and -5. Okay, 5 and -5. No. Hey, Brandon, sit up. Get your head off the desk. All right, now, 5 and -5. 5 and -5 is point G right here. Okay, so let's look at these points here. Everybody turn to page 295 and let's look at number 1. Okay, for problem number 2. Problem number 2, it says plot the point and describe the location. So -3 and 3. Okay, so -3 would be here, and then 3 we would go up 1, 2, 3. So that would be right there. So you would draw a little graph on your paper. You would plot that point. Okay. Beside that point, you would put -3 and 3. You would put point L. Okay. On your notebook paper, which you're going to be using mostly. So right beside it, so here's what number 2 would look like. You would draw a little graph. Okay, and you would go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you would put the point right there. You would put -3 and 3. Put L above it. And then you would put quadrant 2. Well, if you're looking at problem number 2, it has a big L beside it. So you would do number 3. You would come here, draw your little graph. It's 0 and -3. So basically I got to have here, like that. Put a point right there. That would be 0, -3. That would be point M. And it would be y-axis. Okay? So that's how you do 2 through 5, and also, so 2 through 5 is like that, and 17 through 24 is like that. Okay? Look at number 7. Number 7, page 296, says name the ordered pair that represents the point. So point A is also the same graph as we have here on the screen. What is the coordinates of point A? 2 and 2. So on number 7, you put A, and then beside it, you put 2, 2 with the parentheses. And that's it. No, I just told you. 17, 2 through 5, and 17 through 24, you do like 2 and 3 that I did right there. Yeah, it's not in the book. You have to draw the graph. Okay? So your homework is this. 6.8. One through 5, keep talking and it will increase. Seven through 25, and 31 through 36. You're going to have a test in here on Wednesday of this week, okay, over all of Chapter 6 that we've covered. So adding and subtracting integers, multiplying and dividing integers, and then the coordinate plane. So you need to be studying your rules so you don't get them confused on the test. Test is Wednesday.
Is there going to be dividing integers on it?
That's what I just said.
Well, I mean, she asked for the date and you told her.
Okay. So this is your homework. This is due tomorrow. Okay. So when the bell rings, you can go.